Dan Williams, Survive Outdoors. If you're new to the channel, what we do is we do wilderness medicine videos. We cover a wide range of topics, injuries in the outdoors, how to prevent those injuries, and if you do get injured, how do you treat those with minimal, at best, what you have out in the woods. We also do some gear reviews. Today we're going to be talking about specifically, can you survive a lightning strike, with a little background on lightning. Now, I've been doing wilderness medicine for about 25 years. I'm a board certified physician assistant and been practicing medicine around 42, 43 years. I also have a doctorate in psychology and specialized in forensic psychology. And basically, I'm just an old man. So if you like that kind of stuff, not the old man stuff, but if you like that kind of stuff, hey, come along, subscribe. We'd love to have you. So today we're going to do, can you survive a lightning strike? Before we jump into that, there's three types of lightning. There's the cloud to ground lightning. There is cloud to cloud, cloud to air. The cloud to ground is the classic big cloud, the anvil type looking cloud, and the lightning bolt strikes. Then the cloud to cloud, you'll see in this video here, it lightens up the sky and pretty interesting to look at and watch, still dangerous. And then there is cloud to air lightning. There's about there are five ways that lightning can strike. One is the direct hit, and that really only occurs in about 5% of lightning strikes to human beings. Then there is the side flash, and the side flash is when a bolt hits, it has a streamer coming off of the main bolt. There is the ground current, and that is the most common for fatalities. The lightning bolt hits, and then it's carried onto the ground, and you get the effects of that, and that is responsible for the most deaths, is the ground current. Then there's conduction, kind of self-explanatory. If you are in the home and you're next to the sink, or you're next to an electrical outlet, those are the ones that will get you. And lightning travels pretty far with metal. But interestingly enough, metal is not a conductor for lightning. That is correct, it is not. We'll get into that more in a bit. Then there is streamers. Streamers are when the negative ions on the ground and the positive ions from the clouds, and those two are getting ready to connect for a lightning bolt, and you get hit with those negative ions. And that's what streamers are called. So you're never ever 100% safe when you're in the outdoors and you're hiking, hunting, fishing, golfing, baseball. You are just not. There really isn't a whole lot. Even if you try to protect yourself in a contained building, you're not 100% safe. So lightning is a real pain in the butt in terms of if you can totally say, hey, I'm completely safe. You're not. A car is a safe area to be in. It's a myth that the rubber tires will protect you. There's been many cases where the rubber tires have actually blown out. I was witnessed one of those situations down in Chattanooga, Tennessee years ago, where a lightning bolt at a rest stop hit a car, scorched and peeled the paint off the top of the car, but the individuals were safe. I checked on them and they were okay. Scared to death, but they were fine. If you have the new cars with completely glass tops, those are dangerous and would not recommend that, but it's better than nothing. So that's an idea. 10% of lightning occurs when it's not even raining. A third of lightning strikes occur before the storm. A third that affect humans are during the storm, and the other third are after the storm. And that's pretty common. You got people that are antsy, want to get back on the baseball field. They want to get back out there hunting. And that's where the 30-minute rule comes into play. So 30 minutes after the storm has passed. It's rough to really extrapolate exactly when the storm has passed. Play it safe and go 45 minutes. But a lot of major sporting events, they're going to wait 30 minutes to an hour before, for obvious reasons. So that's really important. So some truths of lightning strikes. They can occur on a sunny day, which we discussed. Actually, a friend of mine about 7-8 years ago was hit by lightning. It was a ground, from bolt, it was a ground conduction strike is what it was, and he was fishing. He's fine. He's fine. He does have some repercussions from that. There were lightning will strike more in the same place more than once. That is a total myth. That is folklore. Metal, it travels very far with metal, and it is not a conductor. And you'll hear me repeating that because a lot of people believe that metal is a conductor of lightning. So that's pretty important to note. Jewelry. Jewelry does not increase your risk of getting hit by lightning. However, jewelry will burn the hell out of your skin and actually leave the demarcations in. So bracelets, watches, if you're out hiking, take all that off. Really important. Worldwide, there's around 24,000 deaths a year. In the United States, approximately 40 deaths a year in the U.S. Texas and Florida have the most deaths. And the 4 states that have the most injuries or the most reported lightning strikes are Mississippi, Arizona, Arkansas, and Mississippi, Arizona, Arkansas, and the 4th one is New Mexico. That's the one, New Mexico. So those are the 4 states that are reported having the most injuries. Little gee whiz fact. The deaths that occur are usually from a heart arrhythmia or respiratory arrest, and we'll get into that a little more towards the end. So let's talk about injuries that you would encounter from a lightning strike, and there's a bunch. The injuries that you can get, one that's very common, in fact it ranges about 30 to 50% of all lightning strike victim, is a ruptured eardrum, which is barotrauma. And barotrauma typically is from diving too deep, or you're up in an airplane, you get a pressure gradient and you blow out your eardrum. They heal. I've seen a bunch of them, and it's called a concussive injury. I've talked, when I was doing my deer tracking video, I spoke a lot about ballistic trauma, the actual force, and this is the same thing with lightning. People think it's just electricity, but it's not. It's also a concussive, and there is pressure that emits off of that bolt. In fact, you can get, if you're within 30 feet, you can get pieces of shrapnel, pieces of wood from trees, pebbles, rocks, glass, if you're indoors. So it's pretty important to note. For ear damage to occur, you got to be something like 30 feet away, and you can still get ear damage or a ruptured eardrum. 15 feet, you can actually have lung damage, and 10 feet or less, you can have broken ribs, you can have bodily injury from the concussive effort of that bolt. Pretty intense. Now, on the water or the ocean, you can get the ground to current issue going on about 20 feet away, 20 to 30 feet, and that's the average. Burns. Burns are notorious with lightning strike victims. So on burns, one of the injuries is called a Lichtenfeld marking. Of course, it's named after some guy named Lichtenfeld. And it's pretty cool looking. It's a feathery type pattern that you get on your body. So just another thing to look at when you walk across to, God forbid, one of your victims or a person that's been hit by a lightning strike. And what are you going to do if you're in the outdoors? You're going to just treat those wounds and get them transported as soon as possible. Other issues are obviously cardiac, heart arrhythmias, headaches, muscle pain, deafness, blindness. So the amount of eye injuries that can occur from a lightning strike range from retinal detachment 2 to 3 weeks later, and a very high increased risk of cataracts, severe photophobia. Photophobia is when light actually hurts your eyes, and corneal injuries to the cornea. I'm going to also put in the description below, I'll put my eye video down there. It was the first video I did on Survive Outdoors. If you have eye injuries, how do you flip a lid in the outdoors, and so on and so forth. So I'll attach that. Other injuries that occur is, there is one that's kind of odd. It's called carinoparalysis. Carinoparalysis is when lightning strike hits and the person cannot feel or move their lower extremities. Clearly they can't walk. Very scary. They feel like they're permanently paralyzed. The arteries in the lower part of the spine spasm, decrease giving blood flow to the legs. Thank God it's only temporary. It lasts less than 6 hours on average, and then they can be mobile and move, but it is very frightening. Neurological issues, seizures have been reported after lightning strikes. Pregnancy. Women who are pregnant, they're not affected any more or less than the average guy. But the fetus, around 50% of women who are pregnant, they will lose the fetus, and the fetus will die. Now, that is directly dependent on what term of pregnancy they're in, the health, and so on and so forth. It's also interesting to note about 80% of men of all lightning strikes are the victims. 80% are men. And part of that has to do with they're out there in the outdoors, they're working, oil rigs, commercial fishing, you name it, and guys are out there. So, you know, women catch a break on this one. And so that's kind of another little gee whiz fact there. Ages, I think, range from 20 to 45. Prevention and safety. What can you do? So what can you do to avoid lightning strikes or decrease your chances from being hit? Well, obviously, be obsessive and watch the weather and stay indoors. Even literally cancel trips. I mean, if you're hiking, if you're going on some vacation, you're going to hike up the side of a mountain. I mean, you're just asking for it. So if you can, by all measures, cancel it. If you're hunting, duck blinds are the worst. You have this little open air type building out there hunting, and that is one of the worst places you can be. Fishing, if you're in a boat, not a good idea. So watch the weather. That is probably what the best advice I can give. Now, some of you may have heard the crouching or kneeling and put your hands over your ears. Can be helpful when you have nothing else. Do not lay flat on the ground. It increases your surface area and you're going to have more injury and more damages. Do not crouch under a tree or anything taller than you. That is another no-no. Remove all your jewelry. We've discussed that. So those are some of the things that you can do, and there's really not a whole lot. But the average person is like, in their lifetime, I think the rate is 1 in 10,000 can get hit by a lightning strike. So you can increase or decrease those chances by decrease those chances by using good judgment and not have hubris. Like when we're 25 and we're going to go out and we're fishing for crappie and we're going to stay on the damn water no matter where the storm's at. So that happens. So it's really important that we kind of keep ourselves in check. So this is for my medical personnel. However, there is some data in here for everyone. What do you do if you have an individual that comes into the office, urgent care, that if they think they've been struck by lightning or they think they have effects from a lightning strike? So if you're in the field, it's obviously transport 911, ASAP. You want to get the person out of the field. You want to get them to an area for treatment. And literally it depends on the severity. So if someone comes into my urgent care and I'm assessing this patient, first thing we're doing, we're triaging. So vital signs are important. We call it a full court press. So we're going to do a full court press on this person. I want to do a CBC, a CMP, that's a complete blood count and a complete metabolic panel. I'm checking kidneys, liver. I'm going to do a chest x-ray and a neck x-ray, cervical x-ray. Blood, I also want to check for myoglobin. I want to get a urine and check for myoglobin. That's the enzyme for muscle damage. I also want to do a CK, creatine kinase, to see if there's any heart damage. That's important. EKG, send them for a CT MRI of the brain. Obviously, if it's a borderline case and you're unsure of whether you should send them or not, send them. You're unsure, send them so you sleep better that night. So, but if it's minor, you can take care of it in the office. So those are all important areas that I want you to think about if you're in the medical field. All right, so can you survive a lightning strike? Absolutely you can. I hope that helps. Hope there's some information here you can sink your teeth into. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your face to the wind. Keep your eyes to the sky, guys. Take care.